On today's episode of Speak Shame with Dr. Connie Corrali.
I struggled for 7 years to try to conceive, and we went through pretty much everything that you can possibly imagine when it comes to infertility. We think that this is our fault. We think that this is a failing on our behalf. It is very isolating. It absolutely is. But there are things that we can do. We can find our community.
Hello, remarkable woman. I'm your host, Dr. Connie Corrali, medical doctor, life coach, and survivor of sexual violence. And you're listening to Speak Shame, a collection of inspiring conversations with remarkable women who have faced and overcome adversity. By sharing their stories, my hope is that you may find strength, connection, and hope in your own journey, and that shame itself loses its power. So sit back, relax, and don't forget to follow the show. Joining me on this week's episode is the wonderful Jennifer Robertson. Jennifer is a fertility coach, certified holistic life coach and mind-body practitioner, author of The Injustice of Infertility, a deeply inspiring and raw account of her own 7-year fertility journey, co-author of This Is Pregnancy After Fertility and Loss and Becoming Whole Again. She helps women all over the world transform their mindset and take back control of their life in the midst of infertility, pregnancy loss, and pregnancy after loss. So thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am really excited about this conversation. I know it's so weird, isn't it? I'm just kind of like, my husband said to me, "What are you doing tonight?" And I was like, "I'm going to go on a podcast." And he said, like, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "Shame." And he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "I'm excited."
Yes, it's good to be excited. I love that. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. And we are just going to kick things straight off again, because I want to know all about you. And I know that this first question, I know you have a book, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I want to know, if your life story was turned into a book, describe for me what happens in chapter 1.
Oh, no, I love this question because, yes, I have written a book about my fertility story, but it's one of those things that as you get on, you learn more and more things. So if I could write that again, I would, I guess, explain all of the things that had happened up into my life up until my struggle with infertility, that explain why it was so hard. I would go into the fact that, I had a lot of body image issues growing up. I was a ballet dancer, and your body is scrutinized from how much you weigh to what it is doing. And I grew up with a mum who was constantly dieting. So there was so much pressure on me to control my body. There was also the stuff that I went through at such a young age. I got married really young, and that ended in divorce really young, and I was cheated on. So there was the betrayal. So I had all of these insecurities around relationships that were tied to my body and then sexuality. And so, I had gone through so much to try to gain back control from, a sexual point of view as well. And then being raised by a single mum who, it was demonstrated that, you could do anything if you put in the effort. And so I was so achievement driven as well. And I got my sense of self-worth from getting A's and getting the good grades and working my way up the corporate ladder. And so all of these things led to the thing that made me struggle the most with infertility. And it was this realization that you don't have control. Control up until that point worked, but it was an illusion. And so that was the thing that struggled. So yes, That's a very long answer to the question of what would the first chapter be about, but it would set the scene to all of that.
Yeah, and you know what, Jen? Thank you so much for sharing that because I think it's so important for people to maybe reflect as well on their life and how actually their life story may be impacting what they're going through today. So that was so beautifully put. And I really appreciate that. And there's so many things to kind of unpick from that story. But one of the things actually I wanted to know, first of all, is how you got to where you are today. Tell me a bit about your journey from that initial first chapter to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mean as a fertility coach or do you
Yeah.
mean like where? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So obviously I struggled for 7 years to try to conceive, and we went through pretty much everything that you can possibly imagine when it comes to infertility. We tried naturally, that didn't work. I made all of the changes to my body and diet and supplements and all of that, and then we went down the path of IVF, and so we tried that, and then we discovered that that I didn't get a lining on my uterus, so we moved to surrogacy, and so
Mm.
like experienced pregnancy loss through that, and then we had our little boy Luca, who is 10 years old now, and a couple of months after Luca was born, I got pregnant naturally myself. And then, like, I feel like when I tell this story, I'm like, and then it was just so much, and then, like I experienced my own pregnancy loss, and then I got pregnant again, and now we have Sophie. So all of these things culminated into like the thing that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
I wanna help women who are in the position of struggling with infertility and
Yeah.
everything that comes with it, because I know how truly hard it is, and I know that the things that I did didn't help me.
Yeah.
And I wanna provide the thing that I needed to other women as well. So it's just a very smooth transition into this, and I love what I do.
Yeah. Thank you for that because I think now it's useful to hear, that initial chapter and then that sort of journey that you went through. And how did you find that your life's journey, your life story impacted you throughout your fertility journey?
Oh, yeah, like, a lot, right? Because I think the thing that we don't realize with infertility is that we think that that's the cause of all of our insecurities, all of our lack of self-confidence, all of that. And the thing with infertility that I discovered was that's the thing that pushes us over the edge.
Mm.
My issues, my insecurities were already there through the body image stuff, through the, sexuality, through my overachieving perfectionistic tendencies. They were already there, but infertility was the thing that kind of brought it to the surface, and it forces you to examine all of those things, which, man, that's so hard. But also something that is so necessary as well.
And so many people listening to this, so many women will be thinking, and myself included, just can really relate to that when you're going through that sort of infertility journey, how much it then highlights other aspects of your life that maybe you've just never dealt with. And so I'd be interested to know how you worked through that as you went through your fertility journey. How did you find, what did you find that helped, or what did you learn as you went through it?
Do you know what? I wish I could say, "Oh, I did this, and then that helped me this way." Like, when people kind of, like, go, "What did you do?" I'm like, "No, don't do what I did." I
Yeah.
did, like, I am the poster child for what you don't do, you know? So, I didn't get help. I put
Mhm.
my head down, I ran, I doubled down on the effort. I didn't worry about my mental health. I figured that I would deal with all of the emotional fallout when I got to the end. Actually, I thought that when I got to the end, the emotional fallout would just kind of fall away as well. And I truly believed that. So I just kept on pushing forward because I didn't know any other way. I had not been taught how to deal with the different emotions. And when you're on this journey, you're dealing with so many conflicting emotions. Like you're dealing with so much grief. And it's not just, I had my father had passed away, my grandmother had passed away. I had gotten a divorce. Like I was not a stranger to hardship or grief, but the grief that comes with infertility is something that's very, very different because it's a very disenfranchised grief. It's not recognized by anyone else. And it's not the actual loss of something physical. People don't understand it, but it's definitely grief.
Yeah.
Grief can be the loss of that picture that you had in your head. You can grieve the loss of time. I always imagine myself like when we started trying to conceive, I was 33. And so the picture I had in my head at the end was a 33 or a 34-year-old mother with a couple of kids. I didn't have the picture in my head of me breastfeeding at my 40th birthday party, and that was my reality. So grief can look like various things. So, I didn't realize that that was the thing. I wasn't equipped for any of that. So I wouldn't do what I did, but now in the work that I'm doing, I'm becoming what I needed. And I think the most important thing is, and I was talking about this with a group coaching program that I lead today, and the shift that the women have seen is so important. And the shift is about so much on this journey. The focus is on what can I do? Give me a supplement to take, give me a diet to follow, give me an injection to take, tell me to how many times do I need to exercise per week? How much sleep do I need to be getting? Like, give me something that I can physically do. And that's what we focus on so much. But the shift that these ladies made was, oh, I need to actually take care of my mental health. And I need to pour into myself, not from a point of view of I'm just going to tick a box, but because I need to feel supported. And if I am supported, if I am nourishing myself, if I am taking care of myself, if I am creating boundaries and saying no to the things that I don't want to do, if I'm removing toxicity from not just the products that I consume, but the people in my life and the social media and things like that, then that's the most important thing. And when you create that sturdiness in yourself, then you're able to deal with the emotional fallout, the pain, the grief, the the different, mindsets, the roller coaster of emotion. So it's really, the big thing is finding and realizing that that's the shift that we need to make. That yes, it is really important that we are supporting our fertility by ticking all of those boxes, but that's not the only part. The bigger part is working out how to be able to deal with the emotional side of things and how to support our mental health.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I think honestly, it's so refreshing to hear that because for so many women, and myself included, you know, we just think to ourselves, right, I'm going to be eating like this, I'm going to be exercising like that. I, like you said, ticking these boxes and forgetting our emotional well-being. And that's so important. And, and I wonder for you, when did that realization come? Because you talk about, don't do what I did. What do you think was the shift in you that kind of made you realize I need to look at myself and need to help myself more?
Tr Honestly, it was motherhood, and when I became a mom, then I was kinda like, "Well, I actually can't be doing the things that I used to be doing." like I need to actually look after myself because I'm not just looking after me anymore. I'm looking after a little person. And so, which reinforces that mistaken belief that we have that, oh, things will get easier once my baby comes along. And for a lot of us, that's not the case because we're carrying all of that trauma and grief. And then we're going into this. And, we need to be looking after ourselves. We need to be looking after our mental health because adding another factor in there, a child to look after is just as hard because then it's not the guilt is transferred. So normally when you're going through IVF or, infertility or pregnancy loss, there is so much guilt. Oh, I shouldn't have had that glass of wine. Oh, this is because I stressed too much. Oh, this is because I had that negative thought. This is because I didn't start trying to conceive earlier. This is because I, smoked too many cigarettes or drank too much in my earlier days and partied too much or, there's so much guilt and that's transferred into motherhood as well. That doesn't go away. That kind of morphs into a whole different creature. So for me, I started doing the work when I was on the other side of things and it's continual. It is continual work, but it is so worthwhile. And for me, I'm doing today, like I'm approaching menopause now. So the things that I was doing to support my fertility and ticking those boxes back then, taking the supplements, making sure I get enough, drink enough water, making sure I get enough sleep, making sure like all of those things I'm doing today because it's
Mm.
all about balancing our hormones and supporting ourselves as women because we hold so much. We hold so many different things. We have to.
Yeah, yeah, so true, so true. And I think, for so many people, when they get that kind of wake up call of actually, yeah, no, I do need to start looking after myself, and it can be life changing. And for others who maybe are in that position now, going through the fertility journey, what things would you suggest that they do in order to start looking after themselves?
Mhm. Uh, the big thing is getting support.
Yeah.
I know that we feel like you can Google this stuff that I'm talking about, like, what do I need to reduce my stress? Okay, try some breathing exercises. Okay, try to meditate, practice gratitude. Like there's all of these things, but it's not until you have, and this is why I became a coach as opposed to like a therapist or anything like that, because I needed a coach as my type A personality driven perfectionist. Like I need a coach. So that's the thing, getting the support, finding a community. They, everyone that I talk to, any kind of professional when it comes to mental health, it's just like find community, like
Yeah.
connection is really important. And that can provide you with some sort of, we need validation that it's not just us, that we're working hard. We want someone as women. And I was talking to a marriage therapist a couple of days ago. We were talking about the different ways that men and women operate, especially on their fertility journey. And she was saying how, as women, the most important thing to us is that we are seen and we are validated. And that is so important because if we're not, we start to feel resentful. And the most important thing for most of our male counterparts is that they want to feel appreciated. And so I don't know about you, but I'm not going to appreciate my husband if he's not seeing how hard that I'm working and at all of the things that I'm doing. And so it's like this vicious cycle. It's like, you, and you both have to move in the same direction at the same time. So I think that, you know, it's really important that we're able to see those things and get the support from our friends, from our family, from our community, so that we feel that validation. That is so important, that we feel seen, and so that we have a little bit of accountability to be able to move through this together.
Yeah, nice words there. And, yeah, not going through things alone is so, so important. And also, thank you as well for mentioning, the experience of partners in this as well, because there'll be people listening who might be thinking, well, actually, yes, I'm supporting my partner through this, and perhaps I don't really know what I need to do, and vice versa. So, thank you for that. And I want to find out as well, because you talked about you know, that sort of 7-year journey of infertility. If you could perhaps maybe describe for me what life was like for you during that time. How were you sort of showing up at work? How were you showing up in life, socially, family, friends? Could you give us a little idea of what life was like during that time?
Yeah, I was an amazing actress. If you had looked at me, you would never have known what I was going through. It's so interesting when I wrote my book, which details everything that, and I went deep. I was honest. I was kind of like, this is exactly the thoughts that I was having in my book. And when I wrote that, my mum read it, and that was really hard. And the first thing she said to me was, she's like, "You didn't tell me everything." And I was like, "No. No, I did not." And so that was, it was almost like I was living this double life. On the outside, I was ticking all the boxes. I was doing all of the things that I needed to be doing. I was smiling when I was supposed to. I was showing up at work. I was still working my ass off. I was doing all of the things, and underneath I was crumbling. I was a mess. I was numbing. I was using, like, so many unhealthy coping mechanisms. For me, it was a bottle of wine and a tub of peanut butter and chocolate ice cream. Those were my things. I was pushing it down. I was delaying the inevitable, and it just, it was really soul destroying being able to, because I was afraid that of what it would mean about me, like, what kind of person can't handle this kind of stuff. I felt ashamed, and I also didn't want the people around me to know how much it was affecting me. Number one, I didn't want my husband to be like, "Oh, wow, maybe we should stop." Because I was like, I will never stop, And I didn't want my friends and family to know how much I was struggling as well, because I didn't want their pity and I didn't want them feeling sorry for me. I was like this strong, independent person. So yeah, it was 7 years of living almost this double life, which is really hard, because then you're kind of like, "Who am I anymore?" Like, you can't recognize who you are, so there's that complete disconnect.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think so many people will relate. I know myself, I've done that whole kind of acting okay on the outside, but inside just falling apart. And, you know, people will listen to this and they'll be able to think, yeah, I get invited to my friends, my godchildren's birthday party or another friend's baby shower or something like that. And you're having to almost sort of wear this mask. And would you say those are the sort of things that, you discuss in your sessions with when you're doing your coaching and find, I guess, that validation if it's okay to feel bad in those situations?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that that's the thing that's my thing. It's like, "No, no, no, your reaction, your emotions are matching the situation, because the situation is so hard." And we think that we're overreacting. We think that we're being over emotional. We think that we're not handling this the way that we should be handling it. But in reality, we are, because the level of grief, yeah, cry. The frustration, yes, scream, the sadness, yet all of that is completely valid. So yeah, it's all about not embracing the emotions, but accepting that this is the way that it is, but also being able to take action as well. It's completely, and the way that we can make things easier, and I felt like I needed to prove something. Whereas in a lot of my coaching, I'm like, you don't have anything to prove. Like, I know you're working your butt off. I know that this is hard. And so when we feel like we don't have to prove anything, that's when we're able to set those boundaries and go, do you know what? I actually don't have to push myself to go to that baby shower. It's okay if I don't do that. And do you know what? Like, I'm ticking all of the boxes. If I want to have that glass of wine, I can have the glass of wine. I don't have to punish myself for it. So it's all about learning how to sit in the uncomfortable space of the emotions and creating strength and empowering ourselves to be like, no, I get to choose. The greatest act of kindness that we can grant ourselves is agency to be able to choose and be able to go, okay, why am I doing this? Am I doing this out of desire or obligation? And if it's out of obligation, giving ourselves permission to not do that. And sometimes we need someone to give us permission. I'm very good at that. I'm very good at giving my clients permission. Don't want to go? Don't go. What about the other person? How will it make them feel? Not your problem. Like, and I know it sounds very callous, but we're all responsible for our
Mm.
own emotions. We've been taught that, oh no, I if you're unhappy, then that's my problem. No, it's not. It's not
Yeah.
my problem. I'm responsible for my own emotions. And if we just kind of live our lives with that attitude, then I think that it would be a lot less complicated, because otherwise we're holding on to things that aren't in our control.
Oh, I love that. And I think so many people need to hear that because, yeah, we're forever trying to please other people and forgetting ourselves, putting ourselves last. So I think that's so important to hear. And I guess then, because you've talked about how you've kind of been connected with other people who are kind of going through a similar journey to the journey that you've been on. And I guess what I sort of realized is that we don't really talk about this sort of thing very often. We don't talk about infertility. We don't talk about surrogacy. We don't talk about baby loss. And are these sort of things as well that you're finding when you connect with other women going through things? Is there a level of isolation that people are feeling as they go through these journeys?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And it's for so many different reasons. The it feels hard to be vulnerable. We think that this is our fault. We think that this is a failing on our behalf. And so we don't want to come to the party with that. And then we have the situations when we do start opening up and we do start being vulnerable. Sometimes it's met with toxic positivity, people saying to us, oh, just have hope or just be positive, or of course it's going to work out. I don't know why or don't feel sad or don't feel this, or, when a friend announces their pregnancy, that people tell us how we should feel. Like, you should be able to be happy for them. You should go to, like, and so when we do open ourselves up, sometimes a lot of the time it's met with the resistance, we're not feeling validated and we're feeling judged. So yeah, a lot of the time we are forced back into isolation, but there are ways that we're able to create small communities around us so that we don't feel so isolated and judged and misunderstood. There are ways that we are able to communicate to people exactly what it is that we need, and having learning how to have those really hard conversations
Mm.
is such an important skill that not only in this space, but for life, right? Like, how many times have you not said something to your partner or someone at work because you're like, oh, it just feels a bit uncomfortable. Whereas, like, it's a skill, like saying, I'm feeling this and this is what I need. Like, that
Mhm.
feels very, oh, like confrontational, right? Like, how dare you take up space and ask for what you need in this world? You just sit down and, stay small. So it does feel a little bit risky to be able to ask what we need, but it's something that we
Yeah.
we need to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is very isolating. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. But there are things that we can do. We can find our community.
Yeah. And Jen, as you're coming out with all of these things, all these gems, all these like wonderful bits of information, I think, if someone is listening to this episode today and they want to work with you, how do they get in touch? How do they find you?
Yeah, as you were saying all that, Mel, yes, I am full of it. So much stuff. Um, so I love Instagram. So I am over there providing a whole heap of validation, support, tips, all of that. So you can find me over on Instagram at Miss Jennifer Robertson, or you can just find me at my website, jenniferrobertson.co.
Lovely, lovely. I will share all of that information in the show notes as well. And I wonder, Jen, as well, if there's anything that you feel like, you know what, I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to say this. Let me know. Let me know if there's anything that you wanted to share as we come to the end.
Yeah, I guess one of the big things that I find with myself and my clients is that we spend so much time either trying to get back to that person that we were before we went through the hard stuff, before infertility, or we spend so much of our time trying to be something better or, like stronger than where we are right now. And I think that that creates so much struggle. So, the huge message that I'm feeling right now is that we need to be able to learn how to embrace all parts of ourselves where we're at today. And that can be even the parts that other people might be like, oh, that's really annoying. Example for me, I I love control. Some people might call me a control freak. But I actually embrace that part of myself because that means that I'm getting what I want. I know what I want. And, I'm very driven to get that. I'm a perfectionist as well. So that might be seen as negative, but it means that I I know what I like, and I'm not gonna stop until I get that, I am very stubborn at times, as my husband sometimes says, but as he said, if I wasn't that stubborn, we wouldn't have got to the end of our fertility journey. So all of these parts of ourself, like I'm emotional too. Like I'm a crier. I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad, I cry when I'm angry. And some people might think, "Oh, well, like, that's a bit icky," no, I'm gonna own that because that means that I wear my heart on my sleeve. It means that I am passionate. It means that, I am feeling. It means that I am processing everything. So, that's just a few examples of learning how to embrace who we are right now. You don't have to love it, but you have to be able to find the hidden gems and the advantages to that as well. So, yeah,
So,
that's the big thing.
yes, I love that. I love that. I couldn't agree more. So thank you. Excuse me and my cough, but thank you for that. And I always like to kind of bring the podcast to an end by thinking about other remarkable women in our lives. And so I just want to ask you if you had to name one remarkable woman who's inspired you, who would it be and why?
Ah, this is an easy one because I was actually listening to her podcast just earlier today, and it's Glennon Doyle.
Mm.
I love the fact that she is so imperfectly her. And she puts her hand up and she owns it and she gives permission to everyone else around her. Like, she gives a permission to all of us to just be us and embrace it. And I find that really refreshing, because when we see other people like that, we're like, "Oh, okay, it's okay. It's okay for me to just be me and still do the work, still try to work myself, work my way through it, but I get to be honest about it as well." And I just find that really nice.
Yeah, I love Glenn and Doll too. I'm completely with you on that, Jen. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I have to also let the audience know Jen has come back the second time to record this. We had a few tech issues the first time, so I really do appreciate that. And it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Speak Shame with Dr. Connie Corrali. And thank you so much to Jennifer Robertson for being my guest on this week's show. Please take a look at the show notes for more information on Jennifer's social media handles so that you can connect with her. If you'd like to join the community, head over to @Dr. Connie Corrali or @SpeakShame on Instagram, or join the private group Speak Shame with Dr. Connie Corrali on Facebook. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get a new episode every other Thursday. Until next time, take care.